Which NFL teams improved the most at every position group? What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here to give you my opinion on the units that improved the most across the NFL, from quarterback to cornerback. What are the most improved units in the NFL entering 2023? Gronk, spike the like button, and let's begin with the quarterback position. Of course, the team that improved the most at quarterback is the one that went from the spoiled, rotten brat, Zach Wilson, to the Hall of Famer, Aaron freaking Rodgers. The New York Jets, Jets, are the Aaron Rodgers Jets now. And Aaron Rodgers is that bad man who has a chip on his shoulder. He's ready to rock, he's ready to roll, and he's ready to prove that he can still play at an MVP level. Aaron Rodgers, mentally, to me, post Tom Brady, the best in the game. Accuracy-wise, one of the best in the game. Arm strength-wise, still one of the best in the game. The only thing Aaron Rodgers needs to tweak in his game from 2022 to 2023 is being more aggressive. Being more aggressive throwing the football down the field. Too conservative last year. And now I believe surrounded by this young Jets team with Sauce Gardner going to the Knicks game, talking to Jessica Alba, I think this is going to bring out that dog mentality in Aaron Rodgers. And I feel he's going to have a great year this year. And there's without a doubt, this is the most improved quarterback position in the NFL. You go from Zach Wilson to the guy who Zach Wilson wants to be, Aaron Rodgers. At the running back position, there's only so many times you can actually add a generational prospect, a player that can change the identity of your team and your offense. And that is potentially what the Atlanta Falcons have in a man named Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson is the new running back and star of the Atlanta Falcons, not just offense, but team. This is going to be the identity moving forward. Just what Arthur Smith wanted. A ground and pound running game that was a lot like his Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry. And just like Derrick Henry and those Tennessee Titans, you have to pay extra attention to that running back. You have to sell out to stop this power running game of the Atlanta Falcons. If you do not, you are going to get your face ran over consistently. And that sets up everything else on this offense. So yeah, Tyler Algier, nice little player, had some nice little statistics, but this is a nice big player. His name's Bijan Robinson. He can elude you. He can run you over. He can run past you. He has incredible vision to see spaces and holes that don't even really develop on time. Bijan Robinson can be a receiver, a runner, a threat on the offense that a defense has to pay extra attention to. So other teams, yeah, they improved their depth. Maybe they added a nice little running back here and there, but only one added a potentially generational player at that position, and it was the Atlanta Falcons and Bijan Robinson. At the wide receiver position, the most improved receiving core in football, without a doubt, is the Baltimore Ravens. What the Baltimore Ravens were able to do behind the scenes, gearing up to get back Lamar Jackson, was go out and sign the incomparable Odell Beckham Jr. And if Odell Beckham Jr. is not quite the guy we used to see in terms of yards after catch and magic with his quickness and speed, what I do still confidently believe Odell Beckham Jr. can be for Lamar Jackson is a very competent number two, and someone who can win a lot of jump balls and back shoulders and contested catches. Because the guy's hands are still like magnets. So Odell Beckham Jr. is going to provide a third down chain mover on the perimeter with the flexibility to line up in the slot and run routes at every level of the field. And if you still have that juice from Odell Beckham Jr. underneath to convert a slant into a big gain, then look out, because they drafted Zay Flowers to be that guy. Yeah, Zay Flowers was my number one receiver in the draft. Love his fit in Baltimore because he can align in the slot or out wide, run routes at every level of the field, and separate at every level of the field. He can win vertically and on the outside, which is rare for a guy of his size. He's got good speed, great juice, can break arm tackles all day long, can elude you with quickness, can break his routes with quickness and agility. This guy is a special talent at the wide receiver position, and him and Odell are going to infinitely upgrade that receiving core for Lamar Jackson. And then you add in Nelson Agholor, who's added on top as a nice complementary option from the New England Patriots, who as a number 3 or number 4 with the Raiders or the Eagles was actually really, really good because he didn't have to be relied upon all the time. But he can, again, another guy that can line up outside or inside, run routes at every level, actually has a little bit of decepting deep speed, and is going to be able to, as that third or fourth receiver, make some nice plays for the Baltimore Ravens. This was a receiving core that was forcing targets to Devin Duvernay, who's a glorified jet sweep guy, and then was forcing targets to Demarcus Robinson. Demarcus Robinson! I bet you forgot about that one. So this Baltimore Ravens receiving core upgraded exponentially across the board. Number 1, number 2, they get back Rashad Bateman from injury. Then you add in Nelson Agholor, and then you still have Devin Duvernay for all the trickery, and you've got the makings of a great wide receiving core for the Baltimore Ravens. At the tight end position, there is only one team that added a game changer at tight end. There were teams that got better. There are teams that I like what they did. But the New York Giants are the only team that, when healthy, added a really difference-making talent. And that's Darren Waller. Darren Waller can run routes inline from the slot out wide, is a threat vertically due to his wide receiver speed. He's faster than most receivers. He's quick and too fast and too quick for those linebackers and most safeties. You have to find a very specific body, a very specific safety corner hybrid with man coverage skills to take on Darren Waller. It's very rare that a guy is physical enough and quick enough to take on Darren Waller in space, one-on-one. You have to double him when he's on his game, or you have to pay close attention to him. And that's the chess piece that's going to change the Giants' offense when he's on the field. Because he can do it all as an athlete. He is a special athlete. And he has the physicality to do enough as a blocker, the athleticism to do a lot as a after the catch receiver. And that's the thing I love the most about Darren Waller. Throw him a little in-breaker underneath. He's going to create 25 yards out of that. Jumping over people, running over people, eluding people. Darren Waller can do some special things when he is on the field. And what I do believe is that the Giants will use Daniel Bellinger to kind of keep those heavy reps off of Darren Waller. They're not going to ask him to be the big blocker guy or always in line. They're going to spread him out, move him around, and make him a high volume target for Daniel Jones. And I think that's the best way to utilize him. They upgraded immensely at tight end. On the offensive line, you could argue numerous different teams that upgraded the most. But I'm going with the one that spent the most cash. The most cash moolah. And that team is the Denver Broncos. As soon as Sean Payton walked into that building, he said, how can I make Russell Wilson better? I'm not going to make Russell Wilson think differently, play differently. What I can do is protect him differently. I can bring in Mike McGlinchey, a very solid starting right tackle. Probably overpay him, but he's going to upgrade my right tackle. And he's going to add an edge and an athleticism to my running game. And then we got Ben Powers. We know he can run block because he comes from Baltimore, but then you check his PFF grade, and he's the number 2 pass blocker at his position in all of football, only behind the great Joe Thuney of Kansas City. So now you have a solidified starting 5 in Denver on the offensive line, one that has no weaknesses no longer. And I view Denver as a very good offensive line that now can balanced pass block, run block, and open up the offense for what Sean Payton wants to be. And what he wants to be is run first, take pressure off Russell Wilson, hit some deep shots with that moonshot deep ball of Russell Wilson that he still possesses, allow him to operate and work and buy time behind a really good offensive line, and go from there. Allow Russell Wilson to play like Russell Wilson, and Sean Payton to get to his running game, and maybe you're working with something. So I think that this offensive line not only upgraded, but actually changed the mentality and the way that you can play if you're the Denver Broncos now under Sean Payton. Now let's flip to the defensive side of the football, beginning with the big boys in the middle, the interior defensive line. We have a sighting of the Atlanta Falcons for the second time in this video. Atlanta improved their interior defensive line, teaming up Grady Jarrett with David Onyemata, a big interior defensive lineman from the Saints who can rush the passer and really stop the run, and just adds a big dude to the middle of this defense to eat some of those blocks for Grady Jarrett to work more as a pass rusher. And then you add not only David Onyemata, but another guy that's on his way to the Hall of Fame one day, and that is Calais Campbell, a big boy. But this big boy can add a little bit of an extra juice to the pass rush department. And I think can be in a little bit of a rotation there in Atlanta. But man, Calais Campbell is one of the most complete interior defensive linemen in all of football for years. He can play outside, inside, and he's going to give some versatility to the fronts that you can play in Atlanta now. And then they also got back Eddie Goldman, who decided to unretire. So he's a nice little rotation piece as well. So the Atlanta Falcons greatly upgraded their starting line and even a hint of depth this offseason on the interior defensive line. So much so that it changes their defense. It changes the pressure they can get on the inside. It changes the way that offensive lines have to block them, given those three beasts in the middle. And it changes your run defense immensely with these three animals on the interior. And then you have the edge position. The most improved edge rush in the NFL. This one was tough because there isn't really one that stands out. No team really went out there and spent a first-round pick on an edge rusher and then traded for an edge rusher or spent a ton of cash on an edge rusher. This was kind of a unique year in free agency in the offseason in terms of no team really aggressively pursuing edge rushers. But I went with the Raiders. The reason I went with the Raiders is because I like Tyree Wilson. He was my favorite guy in the draft. And what I think Tyree Wilson does is he takes pressure off of Max Crosby and Chandler Jones. So by the improvement, it's not only what they added, it's how that addition changes what they do and how they play. So now Tyree Wilson can take some reps off of Chandler Jones's plate, who's a little bit older, and allow him to be more functional and more fresh for the big pass rushing reps. On top of that, Tyree Wilson has the skill set to move inside and rush the quarterback. You can move around Chandler Jones and Max Crosby. You can be creative with these three guys who all have the potential to be elite at any given moment in any given game and take over a game. And then you also added a nice little Jordan Willis from San Francisco, who's not a bad complementary piece. They definitely needed to add some depth to this edge position. They did that here. So I like what the Raiders did at this position. It was not one that really came to the forefront, but when you really think about it, Tyree Wilson and what he can do and what he can be in both the run and pass game allows what Chandler Jones and Max Crosby can also be this season. At the linebacker position, without a doubt, the most improved unit is the Chicago Bears. Unless you're including the Roquan Smith Chicago Bears, maybe you back off and go with a different team, but I'm not. I'm saying, like, what were they at the end of last year and what are they now? And you added two really good linebackers to the Chicago Bears. And you basically gave them two pieces that allows Matt Eberflus to run his system the way he wanted to in Indianapolis and now in Chicago. Right? Darius Leonard was over there. Bobby Okereke, I can't say your name, was over there. And then now we've got Tremaine Edmonds, big, long, nasty, and really just entering his prime now because the guy was drafted at like 20 years old. And I think he can actually be better than what he was in Buffalo. Great athlete. Takes up a lot of space with his length and coverage. And then big physical downhill. And then you've also got TJ Edwards, who's not as gifted as Edmonds, but somebody who can do everything well. Especially, I think his coverage game is pretty good in terms of he plays assignments very well. He maybe doesn't go above and beyond, but just very, very solid. And can complement Edmonds' athleticism very, very well. Both guys can move sideline to sideline. So I think both fit this system and both fit different roles within the system exceptionally well for Matt Eberflus's defense. Huge upgrade at linebacker for the Bears. It's going to be interesting to see how much that changes the defense. Moving to the secondary, at safety, I don't know if you would call this cheating, but I went with the Detroit Lions because they added safety corner hybrids. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a safety nickel hybrid. Somebody that I've raved about all offseason the last couple of years. I thought when Philadelphia got him, that was a steal. I absolutely despised my Bucks at the time with Tom Brady playing him because he was annoying. And that's what he is. He's annoying. He's a pest. But he's also extremely talented because he gets in your face. He's physical at the line of scrimmage. He can play in drop coverage. He can play deep as a free safety and pick off passes as he did last year for Philadelphia. He can play man. He can play zone. He's undersized, but he doesn't play like it. And then you bring in Brian Branch, who's also a nickel safety hybrid. So it allows great versatility for Detroit secondary, someone that can play safety and be very smart at reading the quarterback and making all those tackles in the box, but also can play from the nickel, can blitz, but also can play man coverage with his good sudden change of direction capabilities. So I love how they complement and I love how they overlap. And I feel that both players can be great additions to the Detroit Lions secondary. At the cornerback position, you could also go with the Lions here, and I wouldn't blame you even if you include those guys as safeties because they added Mosley and they added Sutton. And there's other teams that added really good top flight corners, some out of the draft like the Patriots. I think Washington had an underrated cornerback group that they added. I think that obviously what Miami did getting Jalen Ramsey. But the team that I felt upgraded the most and improved the most with one singular move was the Dallas Cowboys. And that might not come to mind right off the bat, but by adding Stephon Gilmore, it gives you a proven shutdown corner who last year was unbelievable. I don't know if you guys watched the Colts games. A lot of people didn't because Jeff Saturday was atrocious. But it felt like every time the game came down to the end and the Colts needed a win, there was Stephon Gilmore making a play. Every time. The Broncos game comes to mind for me. But Stephon Gilmore can still play at an exceptionally high level. To me, he's still one of the 10, 12 best corners in the game. Man, zone coverage, doesn't really matter. He's great at the line of scrimmage, great in zone, reads quarterbacks exceptionally well, breaks up passes at elite level, still got enough speed to play man on the outside with the best receivers in the game. He's awesome. But why is Stephon Gilmore the biggest improvement for the Cowboys? Because it's a trickle-down effect, right? So you've got Trevon Diggs, who's kind of aggressive in his nature, and you can allow him some flexibility with his assignments. And then you can allow Jordan Lewis, nickelback, who's really good, and Deron Bland, who can play safety or corner or nickel or whatever. So you can move these guys around and do whatever you want with them as movable chess pieces because you did one thing, and that was bring in another elite corner to complement an already elite player in Trevon Diggs. So that is why, to me, it's the biggest improvement. Just because it's one move, right, doesn't mean it's not the biggest improvement because of what it allows everyone else to be and do and how it changes the defense. And then you add the leadership and the experience element and the confidence element of Stephon Gilmore, and it puts it over the top for me. So those are the most improved units in the NFL, in my opinion, entering 2023. Let me know yours in the comment section below, and let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my suggestions and picks. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Gronk, spike the like button. Subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.